This is my anti-cravings bag. It has 7 things that help me reduce my urge to eat outside of hunger and lose 20 pounds forever. I used to feel weak, like I had no willpower, every time I gave into a craving. But the trick isn't fighting harder, it's fighting smarter. It's using the right tool at the right phase of a craving. You see, cravings follow a wave, the craving regulation curve. The peak is where you give in. But here's what no one talks about. You can exit before that breaking point. Most videos only tell you how to fight the peak when it's already too late, or they tell you to use the right tool at the wrong phase, making it useless. I'm going to show you when to use which tool so you can exit early, and some of these things you've never seen before. Let's start with the tool I use in stage 1, the calm. Your goal at this stage? Prevent the climb from happening in the first place. You've probably tried that already and failed like I did. Over many weight loss attempts, I came to see hunger as the enemy, even at times seeing food as a necessary evil that makes me gain weight. And so my plan tended to revolve around eating as few times as possible, and if I did eat, then as little as possible. This would all work great until after dinner. Then suddenly, I'd get possessed by a hunger demon who had to have some ice cream while watching TV. Next day, I'd feel awful, vow to stick to my frugal plan, and yet fall into the same trap again and again. It felt inevitable, and it was, because the calm stage is not actually a flat line. If you zoom in, it's made up of these mini waves that rise about every 3.5 to 4 hours. Every time I ate as little as possible through a mini wave, I didn't calm it, I charged it up. Each wave got stacked on top of the last until it crashed on me as an all-out binge at night. Overeating at night wasn't about a lack of willpower. It was the result of undereating earlier. So I did something completely opposite to what I was used to. I set alarms on my watch to remind me to eat every 4 hours. No grazing, no skipping. This calmed the daily big wave, but one would still hit me hard some days and derail my weight loss. Like I'd be feeling bored at home and I could feel the second stage, the pull, begin, giving me a hankering for some chips to relax with and sending me into the pantry to take a look. Here's the trick I used. You know how sometimes you go look in the pantry and fridge and nothing looks good to you, so you return empty-handed? I made that the default case even with lots of tempting snacks in the house. How? In between meals, I wore these blue tinted glasses. You may have noticed fast food places almost never use the color blue. Why? Because blue lighting makes food look unappetizing, even disgusting. I use that to my advantage. I'd wear these around the house in between meals. I'd also wear them grocery shopping, so I wouldn't be tempted to buy half the junk aisle. But I felt weird wearing tinted glasses at work or in a restaurant. The work kitchen was always full of donuts and snacks, tempting me to try just a little bit until I'd end up eating twice more than I wanted. At restaurants, I'd keep eating even after I was full, just because the food was still in front of me while I waited for the bill. This is where bait and switching my brain worked. See, our brains are amazing, but also really lazy. If you've read Thinking Fast and Slow, you know that our brains don't like thinking hard because that takes up too much energy. It prefers to make quick, instinctive conclusions, even if they may be inaccurate. One of those lazy conclusions our brains make is associating the act of chewing with eating, even if you're not actually swallowing anything. This makes way for the perfect Trojan horse, the gum. Whenever I'm cooking or cleaning up, I pop a gum to stop myself from sneak eating. When I'm done eating at a restaurant or I'm in between meal times at work, same thing. And my brain thinks, she's already eating, craving fulfilled. But there would still be times where I didn't care to wear my glasses or chew gum. You know those times when you're so stressed that no glasses or gum are going to come between you and that pint of ice cream. What's going on in those moments? As the book Atomic Habits explains, our craving is not for food. We actually are craving a change in our emotional state. Let's rewind back to stressful work days after which I came home. I do different random things, and let's say one of these stressful days, I happen to sit down to watch TV and eat some pizza. Suddenly, I feel less stressed. My brain registers this as a reward and spikes dopamine like a bookmark, saying, remember this action, it feels good. Another stressful day happens and it decides to do the same thing. Another dopamine spike to catalog it as more evidence of this being satisfying. Over time, pizza is my sweet relief from crushing stress. And the peak for crushing stress is way higher than that for boredom for me. So while the glasses and gum are enough to flatline the smaller boredom waves before the peak, the crushing stress waves build too quickly and forcefully. The glasses and gum reduce their size, but they aren't enough to flatline it before its peak. So how do you flatline a tsunami? Notice I said my brain was seeking a dopamine hit. So the answer lies in a dopamine hit just as strong, but without food. But what provides that bigger dose instantly? We turn to this study that shows music activates the same brain circuits as food or chocolate. It gives you a massive dopamine hit and helps you exit a big wave before a peak. But it's not just any music. Science shows music from your childhood or any period where you felt safe, empowered, or joyful hits your emotional reset button fastest. So my anti-cravings playlist is unabashedly a mix of 90s pop and Bollywood. 3 songs, 10 minutes, dancing included. But no plan goes perfectly. I'd sometimes forget my glasses or gum, or I wasn't in a place to plug in my music. So I'd fail to exit during the pull and keep going up the wave, ready to eat. Now, you may think we're in lost cause territory, but not so fast. You're at the fork. The wave's not too high to escape. The key is to recognize that you're in a state of emotional dysregulation. And all decisions made in such a state only serve the instant gratification version of you, not your long-term aspirational self. But how do you regulate yourself while you're dysregulated? Just like a calm person can talk another off the ledge, we need to bring in a calm person to talk to your present, dysregulated self. This study shows that when participants interacted with VR versions of their future self, in all cases, they ended up making decisions that accepted later rewards over instant gratification. I don't own a VR, so I did the next best thing. I took a selfie of myself and colored it with a yellow filter if I was eating at mealtime and blue if I was eating out of cravings. This took just 5 seconds, but the small pause to look at myself with the food I'm about to eat made me self-conscious in a good way. Bonus, scrolling through my camera roll gave me a quick reality check and sometimes even context for why cravings trended up or down. But depending on the size of the wave, this still could not be enough. If you're like I was, you try to stop the craving by eating a little bit of chocolate, hoping it'll calm the wave before it turns into a binge. Or you go for something low calorie first, hoping it'll fill you up and save the day. But more often than not, both backfire. Why? When you give your brain a taste of chocolate, it expects more, because that's what it's used to getting. That tiny bite actually increases craving. And low-calorie fillers, they aren't nutrient-dense, so they don't satisfy your body. And if they're not emotionally rewarding, they don't satisfy your brain. So the craving wave doesn't calm, it grows. At this point, we're unlikely to exit the wave, but we can set up the peak to be shorter. We do this by not fighting it, but relaxing into the wave and going with it. Since my craved food was chocolate, a 120-calorie 20-gram protein bar that tasted like it was usually enough to end my urge to binge. But even this didn't work every time. Like when my crushing stress wave was off the charts, or I was full at a restaurant, but dessert still looked too tempting to resist. Again, the key isn't to fight it, but to relax into the wave. How do you relax into it? By doing HIIT. Not physical HIIT, focus HIIT. Imagine you're in those close-shot fast food commercials. Look closely at your food. Take the smell in. Chew it slowly. Notice how the texture feels in your mouth. What does it sound like as you eat? Channel all your senses into what you're eating for a 20-minute interval. For once, use fast food industry tactics for your own good. Now, most times I'd be exiting the peak at this point, but there were still some cases where I'd want to keep eating. Like my mouth got a taste of the chocolate and now just needs more and more. This is where the reset phase comes into play. Just like the blue glasses disrupt how appetizing food looks, you need to now disrupt how your craved food tastes. How? 2 things. 1, switch some mouthwash after the 20-minute focus hit. It not only makes whatever you eat afterward taste off, but it also carries a strong meal is over cue for most of us. 2nd, drink half a cup to 1 cup of water right after. I carry this 750 milliliter bottle with me at all times for this reason. And also because just like chewing tricks our brain, so does swallowing water into thinking our cravings are being fulfilled. And if you're still raring to eat after this rest interval, repeat this focus HIIT routine until you eventually return to the calm. Trust me. These 7 tools will reduce drastically how often you experience cravings waves. But just like the Atomic Habits book says, the tactics work, but they don't last as long unless you combine them with changes at the deeper identity level. Remember how I said our cravings are not for food, but for a change in emotional state? But why do we want to change an emotional state? Because we're trying to run away from something, a deeper reason that we're unaware of, or haven't found an effective way to address. Just like the calm stage shows how tiny waves can stack into a crash, our unaddressed emotional triggers are cravings wave generators. But how do you figure out the changes you need at the identity level so that your cravings reduce to levels you can't even imagine right now? You can do it in 2 ways. 1, if you want my help shortcutting through all the trial and error to curbing cravings so you finally lose weight sustainably and peacefully, then learn more about my weight loss program in the description and comments below. Or if you want to DIY it, then you don't want to ignore this video where you get an over-the-shoulder look at how I coach my clients through changing at the identity level to overcome cravings. Without this, they would still be stuck on a perpetual yo-yo weight cycle. So you don't want to miss the complete step-by-step breakdown here. And always remember, you can do it.